The Indian Constitution is the result of centuries of political evolution in India's freedom struggle. Let us explore its historical journey from 1498 to 1950.
In 1498, Vasco da Gama discovered the sea route to India by reaching Calicut in Kerala. At that time, Calicut was ruled by the Zamorin, one of the most powerful rulers of Kerala. The British East India Company, one of the most originated from the United Kingdom. In 1600, Queen Elizabeth I granted a royal charter to the East India Company. When the East India Company was established, India was ruled by the Mughal Emperor Akbar. When the East India Company arrived in India in 1608, during the reign of Emperor Jahangir, Jahangir allowed the East India Company to establish trade relations in India.
In 1613, the company established its first trading factory at Surat in Gujarat.
Gradually, the company expanded its trading centers to Madras and Bengal. Siraj-ud-Daulah opposed the East India Company because it was avoiding taxes and ignoring Bengal's authority. Nawab of Bengal, Siraj-ud-Daulah, opposed the company's activities. This led to the Battle of Plassey in 1757. Robert Clive emerged victorious in the Battle of Plassey. This victory marked the beginning of British political control in India. In the Battle of Buxar, the British defeated Mir Qasim, Shuja-ud-Daulah, and Shah II. In 1765, Shah Alam II granted Diwani rights to the East India Company. To control the East India Company, the British Parliament passed the Regulating Act in 1773.
This company cannot rule alone.
In 1784, Pitt's India Act established a board of control and increased the British government's authority over the East India Company. In 1786, the British Parliament allowed the Governor-General to serve as the Commander-in-Chief of the Army. Lord Cornwallis was the first to hold both positions. In 1793, the British Parliament renewed the East India Company's charter for another 20 years and strengthened the powers of the Governor-General. In 1813, the Charter Act ended the East India Company's trade monopoly in India, except for trade with China and tea. In 1833, Lord William Bentinck became the first Governor-General of India, and the East India Company lost its commercial functions.
In 1853, the Charter Act introduced open competition for civil services and separated the legislative and executive functions of the Governor-General's Council.
In 1857, Indian soldiers led by Mangal Pand revolted against British rule. The uprising began at Meerut and spread across northern India.
The British Parliament passed the Government of India Act 1858. The rule of the East India Company ended, and India came under the direct control of the British Crown. In 1859, Lord Canning introduced the portfolio system. Each member was assigned a specific department and became responsible for its administration. In 1861, the Indian Councils Act introduced Indians into Legislative Council. In 1862, Lord Canning nominated Raja of Benares, Maharaja of Patiala, and Sir Dinkar Rao to the Legislative Council. In 1905, Lord Curzon partitioned Bengal. The decision sparked widespread protests and led to the Swadeshi movement. In 1906, the All India Muslim League was founded at Dhaka to represent the political interests of Muslims in India and ensure separate representation for Muslims. In 1909, the Morley-Minto reforms introduced separate electorates for Muslims and appointed Satyen as the first Indian member of the Viceroy's Executive Council. In 1927, the British government appointed the Simon Commission to review constitutional reforms. Since it had no Indian member, it faced widespread protests. In 1930, the first Round Table Conference was held in London to discuss constitutional reforms in India. In 1932, Ramsay MacDonald announced the Communal Award, granting separate electorates to various communities, including the depressed classes. Mahatma Gandhi and Dr. B.R. Ambedkar signed the Pune Pact, replacing separate electorates for the depressed classes with reserved seats. In 1929, under the presidency of Jawaharlal Nehru, the Lahore session of Congress declared Purna Swaraj as India's goal.
In 1935, the Government of India introduced All India Federation. It became the foundation for many provisions of the Indian Constitution. In 1946, the Cabinet Mission Plan proposed the formation of a Constituent Assembly to frame the Constitution of India. The Cabinet Mission of 1946 consisted of Lord Pethick Lawrence, Sir Stafford Cripps, and A.V. Alexander. Many provisions of the Indian Constitution were borrowed from the Government of India Act 1935, including federalism, provincial autonomy, and the office of the governor. Many provisions of the Indian Constitution were borrowed from the Government of India Act 1935, including federalism, provincial autonomy, and the office of the governor.
India borrowed the directive principles of state policy, the method of presidential election, and the nomination of members to the Rajya Sabha from Ireland. India borrowed the fundamental rights, independence of judiciary, judicial review, and the impeachment of the president from the United States.
India borrowed the federal system with a strong center, the office of the governor, and the advisory jurisdiction of the Supreme Court from Canada.
India borrowed the concurrent list, the concept of joint sitting of parliament, and the freedom of trade and commerce from Australia. India borrowed the fundamental duties, the ideals of social, economic, and political justice, and the concept of 5-year plans from the USSR. From colonial rule to self-governance, India's constitutional journey reflects the aspirations of millions. On 20th January 1950, the Constitution came into force.